All right, guys, I'm going to keep this shorter because you've already seen all of the intro videos. But for the next 2 weeks, I will be carrying all of the winners to narrow down our finalists in this tournament. The first week in my pocket will go both the Petrified Fish PF719, beautiful wooden-handled Wharncliffe given to me by my friend Alex. The 12C27 in this took one of the best edges that I've done in any of these tournaments. Beautiful dual grit edge, very thin behind the edge, and the best action on any of these knives, honestly, with the exception of maybe the Kizer Original or the Kizer Gemini, which is insane because at the time that he got it for me, this was a $27 knife. At the same time that I have this beauty in my pocket, I will also have the Kizer Gemini, the red aluminum Mojave exclusive mini version in N690 in my other pocket. These are the two best detents in my entire collection. They're crazy how good and crisp the detent is on each of these. I have loved the shape of this Gemini. I've just fallen in love with Ray's design on this. I love how it sort of nests into the middle of your hand. I love how it sort of leans forward. The geometry is beautiful. It's a strong blade. It slices so nicely. The chalky aluminum is my favorite handle material of all time. I love this maroon color. So this one's gonna have its work cut out for it to beat the Kizer Gemini, but my mind is open and they're both gonna go in my pocket at the same time for the next week, starting after this video. And I will see which one I reach for more and which one I enjoy more when I use it. Week 2, we will have the QSP Parrot, probably the best budget knife I have ever used, bar none. The D2 on this sharpened so beautifully. I murdered it by punching it through the lid of a tin can brutally, and it has not really chipped that much. It's done really, really well, and that is going to be facing off against the Hogue Deca, which beat the Kershaw Iridium in the episode that it was featured in. This is an excellent, excellent low-cost budget knife. This is an excellent knife for pretty minimal money, at least when I first bought it, it was. They're getting more expensive nowadays with inflation, but to get MagnaCut in your pocket, ultra lightweight carries, minimal pocket size, it'll be really interesting to see what my thoughts are on the Parrot versus the Deca. And with that, I'm going to get into carrying them and bring back my thoughts to you guys. All right, guys, I have to say, these battles were much tighter and harder to choose between than I really would have anticipated. Let's start with the Petrified Fish. The detent on this thing is just insane, and I have to say, when it comes to this versus the Kizer Gemini, that I think, you know, Cliff Stamp was onto something, because the 12C27 in this little Petrified Fish, it held that keen edge so much longer than so many of the other knife models in this series. So I have to actually say that when it comes to enjoyable edge retention, this thing actually beat out the Gemini and many other knives with more technical steels in this series. I really love the slim outline of this knife. I really liked the edge shape, and the edge length is just perfect. I liked that it's a little bit longer, and there are certain tasks where that comes in kind of handy if you're cutting up a big piece of fruit or something like that. It's nice to have a little bit of extra blade there. The lack of a pocket clip didn't annoy me as much as I thought it might, but it was a little bit of a detractor in terms of if I'm walking along the road and I need to trim a bush in my driveway, more often than not, I'm going to reach for the Gemini because the pocket clip keeps it riding right here on my waistband is usually where I carry it. Versus this, it's got a little lanyard on it, which some of my pants, this just sticks out the pocket just right, and you can grab it and pull it out. And when I wore those pants, it was like I would use it all the time. But if I had to go and dig for it, it is a little bit less convenient. I think both of these knives are keepers, at least for the moment. The Gemini, I had just as good of an experience this time. No downsides really emerged. The only thing that I noticed that was slightly inconvenient was when my fingers were wet or oily, they would occasionally slip off of this flipper tab. And it's really easy to do if you're focusing on it, if you push in. I forget, they say you light switch it or you push button it. If you focus in, it's quite easy to do. But when my hands were wet, or if I'd been working in the kitchen with some oil, my finger did slip off a few times. And it's just because there's no machining or grip on that. To me, it's not a big deal. I just put my finger back up on it and tried a little harder. But it may be worth noting for you if you're in the search for perfection that I don't know that the lack of grip on the flipper is really a benefit. The flipper tab might be just slightly better executed if there was maybe a little bit of grip or jimping on there to get your finger a little bit of additional grab. Other than that, love the way it looks, love the way it cuts. The edge retention of N690 is fine in my opinion. It's not your most glorious edge holder, but it's completely adequate, nice ingot steel that performs kind of in the realm of your VG10s or your 154 CMs in my personal use and experience. So what does it come down to between these two? We've got edge length and early edge retention keenness here in the Petrified Fish. A little bit of a lack of ergonomics, and it doesn't feel super secure as a work knife in the hand. We've got really secure ergonomics, very nimble knife here in the Gemini, just the perfect size in your fist, in your pocket. It's such a good size, and it's so adequate a blade for that tiny little size. I really love the red anodized aluminum. Like, I'm a little bit obsessed with aluminum, guys. I really enjoy it, and I think that Kizer does a great job with their black coatings. They don't tend to cause a lot of friction or bind up in my experience, but they're fairly durable. So here at the end, I have to say the convenient carry size, ergonomics, and the beautiful coloring on this Gemini, I think are winning out over that early edge retention in this case. I still really like this knife, but as far as the tournament goes, this thing just brought me so much joy carrying this in my pocket. I don't know, I'm like a little bit obsessed with the Gemini right now. I have to say that like at this moment, this is my favorite knife that I have experienced. Like, bar none. There's nothing I have or I'm looking to get that I'm like, oh, that'll be way, way better. I really genuinely enjoy this variant of the Kizer Gemini, even way more than I anticipated. So, Gemini wins over Petrified Fish, not because of some great and terrible flaw, but because they're both amazing. And this just hits my taste a little bit better, and the convenience of the pocket clip is nice. And I just love aluminum handles. So there you go. It's becoming a bit subjective, I understand. But moving on to our other semifinal contenders, Hogue Deca and the QSP Parrot. These actually were a really good battle, like similar edge length, sort of similar edge shaping, similar handle size, somewhat similar ergonomics, similar jimping, their thumb stud models, their smooth opening, very, very easy carry size, very lightweight, both of them. So very similar and strong contenders against one another. I really liked both of these. These are maybe two of the best, just like universal, like work, food, whatever knives that you can get for decent prices. The Deca, of course, being more expensive, but one of the more decent prices that you can get CPM Magna cut in, at least at the time that I bought it. The QSP Parrot being one of the best value folders that I know of, being in that sort of 20s to low 30s dollar range when I purchased this a couple years ago, and just delivering a ton of utility and a beautiful feeling handle for that. package. Just to cover the backstory, if you guys weren't here for it, I actually sharpened both of these dual grit. All of these have been sharpened dual grit. 400 grit Veneve Diamond Waterstone on one side, 800 grit on the other. So every knife in this series has been wearing that edge. I destroyed the edge on this thing because I went on vacation and we didn't have a can opener, and I literally used the tip of this QSP Parrot and just punched holes in the cans until I opened them. And so it was wrecked. I took it to a ceramic plate and just sort of, you know, did the plate sharpening trick to bring the edge back. And the edge that came back, it was phenomenal. It is phenomenal. It is still cutting like it's hard to believe how it is still cutting. It's so smooth. It's so funny. Now, the results of that, this is MagnaCut for comparison. Both cutting very, very well still. So that was actually the sharpening choil I was catching on there. So that was my fault, not the Hogue Deca's fault. Both of these have visited the unloaded kangaroo leather strop. So they both have had a little bit of edge realignment and tune-up. The Hogue Deca and the flexible MagnaCut steel actually required a little bit more in my experience than the D2 in this QSP. But the results of that are that this is actually a fresher edge, like I put it on more recently, which is a little bit unfair. But also this thing got absolutely wrecked plowing through metal, and the fact that I could bring it back outside of a couple little chips in the tip, I could bring the whole edge back to beautiful functionality on a plate is actually a pretty compelling cause for me to say, hey, D2 is not bad when it's heat treated right. And to that end, I have to say that the D2 in this QSP Parrot has been the best D2 that I have ever experienced so far. I think QSP is doing a wonderful job with their hardening processes and doing D2 right. It really seems like it holds a nice edge given the price. So there's a lot of things similar, and let me go through the differences and then I'll choose a winner from these. First off, handle feel. This canvas micarta feels so good. This is one of my favorite feeling materials of any knife that I have ever had. It feels so good in the hand, so soft and grippy. So I like the handle feel better on the QSP Parrot. This is good feeling nylon. It's well machined. The shaping is good, but I like the feel of the QSP Parrot better. However, I like the ergonomics on the Hogue Deca better. This has excellent, like firm work knife ergonomics, good thickness in the hand, excellent shaping to sort of key in your index finger, very secure grip on the Hogue Deca. It's not bad on the QSP Parrot. It's just a bit of a more simple handle, and your back fingers don't quite nest in quite as comfortably there. It's a little bit more square. There's not as much chamfering done on this outside edge. The inside edges are a bit sharp here on the Hogue Deca. Like, people have complained about that, and I would agree. Like, there were times where I was really having to bear down on something and it did feel a little bit sharp. It's nothing like crazy, and I wouldn't make it lose a round of the tournament for that, but that's just a thing to note. So handle material, much better on the QSP Parrot. Ergonomics, better on the Hogue Deca. Lock, both of the locks worked fine. I think I like a crossbar lock a little bit better. That said, I think I like the opening action better on the QSP Parrot. It's very smooth. The Hogue Deca is fine, but it does have a little bit of sort of lock stick that it binds up in the beginning just a little bit with that Omega spring, and it's not bad. But I would say opening slightly nicer on the QSP Parrot. They've just done a great job of those smooth machined washers. Closing action obviously is better on the Hogue Deca, and that's a big deal. One-handed closing is amazing to have in a work knife. Oftentimes you're holding something with the other hand and you want to be able to get it out, open it up, use it, close it up, put it away with one hand, and the Deca brings you that game for sure. Blade shape. Okay, this is an interesting one because I like the look of the Deca's blade a lot. I love, though, like the utilitarian simplicity of the QSP. So I would put them on a tie, to be honest, in terms of blade shape. This is just like paring knife in your pocket. This is like sort of combat inspired, like sort of hardcore looking knife that functions really well. The edge thickness is better on the QSP Parrot. So it was interesting because cutting things that were dependent on edge thickness was easier with the QSP Parrot. I'm thinking of, like, I cut up some carrots for a meal with this, and other sort of dense vegetables, like, were much easier with the QSP Parrot. And I also ended up needing to cut up a bunch of tomatoes, and the edge that the plate put back on this was actually so good for popping through the skin of a tomato, which was interesting. It sort of went toe-to-toe with MagnaCut, not resharpened as recently, but CPM MagnaCut, and actually outperformed it in some cases, which was really, really interesting. However, for sort of cutting up things that depend more on the overall thickness of the blade, the Hogue Deca has an overall thinner blade. And so cutting up your onions, your apples, your things like that, that become smoother when the overall profile you have to push through them is a thinner blade. Felt better on the Hogue Deca. I like the edge shape better on this QSP Parrot. I like that the tip is upswept less severely. I find that tips that have a little bit more sweep seem to go dull a little bit faster. I cut up a bunch of cardboard with both of these, and the loss of edge life that I felt on the Hogue Deca out here was a little bit more marked than I felt on the QSP. It's also nice on a cutting board to have that low tip that sits really nice, where the Deca is a little bit more extreme, but still really good. I enjoyed this edge shape as well. It's one of the better ones that I have used, but I just liked the gradual sweep of the QSP Parrot a little bit better. So honestly, I'm like, my goodness, a $30 knife, you know, $130 when I bought it, dollar knife over here. I don't know, like, this knife is really good, and it's really good steel. And I think for the steel innovation that you're getting, the price that I paid for this Hogue Deca really makes sense. But then at the same time, when I don't have a huge preference of this over this, like, how can I say, like, this is better when this costed $30 and it's just about as good? It's crazy, the value of this QSP Parrot. I think I have to say this is my new favorite budget knife. I think if you want something that has a pocket clip, you know, so it doesn't suffer from the lack of pocket clip of some knives, that has decent edge retention. This D2, I sweated on it in my pocket. We had hot days here in New Zealand in the summer, and it didn't rust at all. The finish really keeps it really nice. The handle material is wonderful. The ergonomics are good. The carry size is just about perfection. This is probably my overall new favorite budget knife, period, full stop. Like, if you're looking for like something with the sort of character of an Ontario rat, with a better edge shape in my opinion, better blade shape in my opinion, better handle material by far, but all of those familiar sort of characteristics of your sort of utilitarian EDC knife, QSP Parrot, my present favorite of all the things that I've carried. However, in terms of winning the tournament, I am going to give the win to the Hogue Deca. There's a few reasons for that. One of them is that I can replace this handle with a material that I like better, and I may do that in the future if I end up liking it. The other thing is that I can take MagnaCut to a more acute sharpening angle that would likely cause D2 to take on some damage, and so the future sharpening characteristic possibilities of this knife and this platform are pretty good. I think for now I'm gonna keep both knives, but as far as the tournament goes, the next stage will be Kaiser Gemini versus Hogue Deca. in the absolute final of my mid-size knives. I'm going to take both of these and resharpen them to a fine edge, which is my tradition. For finals, I like to dual grit sharpen for the beginning and see how they take a sort of coarser, more aggressive edge. And then for the actual final, I like to fine sharpen because it challenges the two different steels to take and hold different kinds of edges. And oftentimes there will be differentiating performance that is helpful in weighing up the final decision. So thanks for tuning in. If you want to see the last episode where the Hogue Deca took on the Kershaw Iridium, it's on screen now. For the rest of you, I will say peace out from the home slice. You guys take care. Bye.